Wow. Good morning, everyone. I almost forgot what a crowd looked like. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to be here with all of you after 3 really long years. It's fantastic to be able to meet in person again and see so many old and some new friends. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that way and feeling that way. Thank you all for your patience as we were getting everybody in the door, and I'm thrilled to bring you a really an amazing agenda this week. So we are meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples. Toronto is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We have a really incredible conference ahead, jam-packed with 2.5 days together. We've got 5 incredible people joining us for what will certainly be some inspiring and thought-provoking keynotes. And we have over 85 concurrent sessions across 14 streams delivered by 250 expert speakers from Canada and around the world. You know, and these sessions are going to cover ideas and solutions to issues that you are grappling with right now, and if not, you will be soon. Our speakers reflect the rich diversity of opinion and perspective in our sector, but are focused on one outcome, and that's to arm you with the information, inspiration, tools, and training you need to accelerate your efforts to end homelessness. And of course, you're going to get a lot of time to catch up with old friends and make new ones. And I just also want to say this is our first ever hybrid conference. So hello to the 400 people that are joining us online. Welcome. We wish you were here in person, but are thrilled that you can join us. So to kick us off, I'd like to invite Elder Dorothy Peters to offer a prayer. A traditional teacher and community newcomus, Elder Peters is a member of the Seine River First Nation. Throughout her career, she has worked in various consulting capacities with multiple Indigenous organizations in Toronto, including Aboriginal Legal Services. A residential school survivor, Elder Peters is regularly called upon to share her stories, teachings, and cultural expertise at events throughout the city. Elder Peters.
So bonjour, good morning everyone. Just want to say thank you for the Sema tobacco that I was given to come and do your opening. I'm going to do it in Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, and then I will translate just so I'll give you an idea of what I said. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. I was told earlier that the place was smudged, so we won't be smudging, and there's also quite a few people here. So, bonjour, Chimanito, bonjour, no kumisag, bonjour, mishomsag. Megwech bimochang, no kumgagi shigak, or nichagagi gitongo, nigate bisindamang. Garnish migwa kashaseg mensha, or nigi kanendi gawea, or nigagi no nagatain the muganingwa koinakunegeot, or nichipmoseot, the mikana. Gane makinagot geno. O ni chinana katain de mata ningo ko na kunige oto ni chipmoseo te mikana. Mita shigo ge nungum hanji shasego e. Garnish miu ge kinawe o ni shisha ge no museo te mikana. Garnish unjetawe jen dot garnish mi e. Aningo ge naningo ko shaset chinana katain de no ni chipmate set unjeta chat mi e en dot awe. Mita shimakina taningo ko anakunigeo chichibach motatio chibisindatio keno. Mego chkenishnavem shkikion kinesigo gego gab mito tawir. Migo ge gava chituang mi mahkingi enibi. Garnishi shain migonan mi oik chimanito. Kinagego igi mini go minor ni chip matising. Mita shigoge e gabis e gain dagoton mi on the akosinan. Kanenim kinawaya or ni chisha set or ni gay no chip matuat mi e mikana. Mita shigoge shim piconi mangitoga get on the out the time aganyo. Garnish mane namugish seot. Kanenim go gay near or ni gay no chisha out. Mita shigoge e nungum sago hogotu ni go what nakunige ogun. Bisindo shayanim kanenim. Mita shie kanenim shnam bisinda shnam shayanim shnam aha megwich. So I just thank the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the Creator for coming to be with us today and I guess into the next couple of days as the conference goes on. Just acknowledge all of you for coming and being part of it and for participating and sharing all your knowledge and experiences. Thank you, Megwich, for that. Just acknowledge the medicines that we carry and the medicines that we use every day. And just also thank the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the Creator for all those gifts and resources we get from the lands and the waters, especially the ones that we use every day. I say we're grateful for those things and thank Chimegwich for that. And also just acknowledge that why we're here today, how important it is to have a home. Home is where everything begins for everyone so that they have those plans and to plan for that journey, you know, to move on with their life or to just have that place that's safe for them. So that's why we're here to talk about those things that prevent a lot of people from not having a home. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and just ask the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the Creator to be with us in terms of our discussions and also acknowledging that the sicknesses are still out there and just ask the grandmothers and grandfathers to watch over everyone, keep them healthy, keep them safe, look after their well-being, and also just remembering those ones that have lost loved ones, because within the last couple of years we've lost a lot of people, and just also sending those prayers and those thoughts to their families and to their friends who are struggling with that loss. So I say Megwich for that. Megwich to all of you again. I hope that you have a good conference. Thank you for the SEMA, and I just want to wish you well, and that's it. Megwich.
So I mentioned earlier that we are on the we're honored to be on the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. This morning we have the honor of being joined by Chief Stacey Laforme, who is the elected chief of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Born and raised on the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Chief Laforme has served his community for more than 20 years.
That's all right.
Even better.
Thank you. It's going to be a long day. I didn't want to put you through all that. So I'd like to say Miigwech to the elder and recognize the table of elders and knowledge carriers here and those who are here as well. It has been a long time since I talked to so many people at once. I think you're a very good-looking crowd. The light's hard to see, but we'll just go with it. So I got to say, while I'm speaking, don't look at this background, because when I was looking at it, I couldn't focus after. That'll really do you all in, you know that, right? So, Ani, Bazu, Nagani, Anishinaabekinini, Stace Laforme, Disnakas, Credit Dunjaba, Mainga Dodam, Mississauga, Anishinaabe Dao. I just told you who I am, where I'm from, what my clan is, what my Anishinaabe name is. I can't tell you other things and lie to you because there's a table of people that speak the language. I can't get away with too much today. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to bring welcome. So be welcome, be at home, be at peace, be safe, and when the time comes, be at the airport. Hey, we made that mistake before. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So I wanted to read you a poem that might not be, well, let me just say that I'm going to read a poem out of my own book. I know it's horribly self-serving, but I'm not asking you to go buy these, even though they are $19.95 on Amazon. But I want to read you a poem, and it might not be appropriate for the venue we're having today, but I wrote it a long time ago. As a matter of fact, it's one of the last rhyming couplets I ever wrote, and I wanted to read it to you today. And I called it Look Again. You see a beggar in the street. You cross over so your paths don't meet. You try to avoid these dirty bums, begging in the street for another man's crumbs. They accost you day after day. You do your best to simply walk away. You look at them with contempt and disgust. You throw them $1 when your conscience says you must. Yes, I know what's going through your head. This poor bastard would be better off dead. When you look at me, I know exactly what you see, because I remember what I used to see when I was you and I looked at me. So it's a harsh poem about the realities of being homeless and living on the streets. And it's a challenging life, you know. When I was a teenager, my father thought it was time that I left home, and so he told me it's time to leave home. Well, he didn't so much told me, he threw a dart and stuck it in my arm, so I figured that was a good sign that it was time to leave home. So I left home, and I stayed at the couch of friends for as long as that would last, but I only had one friend, so it didn't last long. And then after that, I stayed in public bathrooms when they weren't locked, slept in there a few times. Then, of course, people had to start locking the public bathrooms. And in the wintertime, I would stay in the back of people's vehicles who forgot to lock them. I was conscious of the fact that I had to get up really early every morning, otherwise it'd be scary as heck for the people getting in the van, and I don't know what would happen. But I was one of the lucky ones. After a year and a half of that, or maybe 2 years, I can't remember, I found a home with both of my grandmothers at different times who lived in different cities, and I stayed there till I was able to ground myself and find a path forward. But I do understand to some extent the idea of homelessness and what it's like. My brother, who started out as an iron worker, and he's since passed away, but he lived on the streets of Brantford for quite a while. You know, he had alcohol abuse problem from the trauma of generational issues, and so he lived on the street for many years until he finally found a home, and that's where he passed away, in his home. But so I'm familiar with the trauma of homelessness. I like to say that for the luck of the draw, there go I. You know, it doesn't take much to change me from you, or you from him or her, and it's a simple thing in our lives in this day and age. 1 minute you're here, and the next minute you're homeless, and it's a very challenging life to live. And I offer my respects for all the work you do to try and correct that and to make things better. Okay, now that I've thoroughly depressed the room, I want to say that you probably noticed that I'm wearing a red shirt. Well, it's a ribbon shirt. So a while ago, many years ago, I was at a conference in the AFN, and they were talking about missing and murdered women. And I stood up and I promised that whenever I had a platform, I would talk about missing and murdered women, and you know red is a symbol for that color. And so I try to mention that, and that's why I wear the red shirt. Also, if you look at the shirt, it has the eagle, which is very important in our culture. You know, there's a creation story that involves the eagle. You know, the eagle was a dominant clan in our dotems, and so that's a strong message for us. And then the orange ribbons represent the uncovering of our children, and this is the eagle carrying our children home. So that's, the shirt has a lot of messages, and I dress like this, you know, a lot. This is just my, you know, come to conference meeting. I have some fancy ones that I wear in the evening that are, okay, I had one in Toronto I was wearing was don't repeat this. This is just between you and I. There was this powdered blue satin shirt that I had on, and it said Mississauga Nation across the back. And I was in a store, and a man says, "That's a nice shirt." And I said, "Thank you." And he went on to say, "It takes a special kind of man to wear a shirt like that." So I'll take it. So I chuckled, but it reminded me that when I was young, I would have been too afraid to wear clothes like this, too afraid of what others would say. But the truth is, we should never have to change to fit into society. The world around us should adapt to embrace our uniqueness. And that's a fundamental principle that I think we forget. And it really speaks to the identity crisis in our youth today. So anyway, I wanted to wish you a great conference. And if I have time, I'm going to, I mean, he's not going to come jerk me off the stage, so obviously I got time. Sorry. So I wanted to end with a poem of what I think is unity. It's called Common Ground. No one thing can define us, for we are complex creatures dreamed in the mind of the Creator. We laugh when we should cry. We cry when we should laugh. We joke when in pain. We smile because tears could consume us. We love unconditionally and totally. We understand that family should come first, yet family is not defined solely by blood. We are quick to anger, yet no one forgives faster. We are loyal and we are strong. When we commit, we are unwavering. We have survived much, but do not mistake adaptation for resignation. You will always see us, for we will always be here, standing for what we believe in, standing beside each other, doing what is right for our children, our future. We remember our obligation to our Mother the Earth, and we remember our place upon her. We are a proud people, an honorable people. We don't always do right, for we are human and prone to the follies of humanity. Yet we strive to be better, to make the world a better place for the children. I know the Creator smiles upon us no matter where we are or what we do, for the love of a child is unconditional. No matter where life takes you, walk proud. This is where you would applaud. I mean, you don't have to, but I'll wait. So, just about done. So I'm sure everyone hears a little of themselves in that poem. And that shows us that no matter how far apart we may seem, we're never so far that we can't find common ground. And sometimes I know it's darn hard. But anyway, I wish you well on your journey. Have a great conference and much success. Miigwech, which means thank you. And Wamapi Makwagman, because we don't have a word for goodbye, which means I'll see you later. Miigwech.
Thank you very much, Chief Laforme. Thank you for joining us and for honoring us with your poetry and great humor. I also wanted to mention, as Chief Laforme mentioned, that we are joined by 9 elders, knowledge keepers, and traditional people. They're here joining me up at the front. I hope that you'll get a chance to have a chat and meet with them. They'll be circulating through the conference over the next couple of days, so please do seek them out. So you'll see we have a candle here on stage again, and at every conference we've held a moment of silence to honor, remember lives lost to homelessness since our last conference, and to help us be grounded in the urgency to end homelessness. Since we last gathered in person, homelessness has arguably become much more lethal, with an increasingly toxic drug supply and a global pandemic that continues to batter our homeless neighbors. And as we gather today, the cost of living crisis that you feel also acutely is propelling more and more people into the life-threatening condition of homelessness. So given how lethal the last few years have been, we wanted to devote a bit more time this morning in remembrance and reflection. So I'd like to ask Diana Chan McNally to join me on stage to lead us in that remembrance. Diana is the Harm Reduction Case Coordinator at All Saints Church Community Centre, located at Dundas and Sherbourne in Toronto's downtown east side. In this role, Diana provides crisis and case management support for unhoused people who experience psychosis and are otherwise disconnected or barred from services. As someone with lived experience of social services and of being unhoused, Diana's work focuses on human rights and equity issues for people who are experiencing homelessness. She is particularly involved in rights protections for residents of encampments. Diana is also instructor in the George Brown College's social service worker and community worker programs, and has served on steering committees and boards of Justice for Children and Youth and Health Providers Against Poverty. Please welcome Diana.
Should be a PowerPoint, I think. Yeah, there we are. Perfect. So we are here at a national conference about homelessness. We are here to share our knowledge, our learnings, and our ideas about how to address what has grown into an unequivocal crisis of homelessness across Canada. We are here as experts, whether academic, frontline, or with lived experience, and yet not one of us knows how many unhoused people have died across Canada in this past year, or ever. Not one of us. The experts. In Toronto alone, 216 deaths were counted in 2021. In all of British Columbia, 247. London, Ontario, 57. Edmonton, Alberta, 222. It's safe to say that it's likely in the hundreds, if not the thousands, of people who have died across this country in just this past year alone. But it's also telling that none of us, the experts, knows the mortal extent of this national crisis we are here to study and solve. And it isn't simply who has died without housing, who has died because they had to live without housing, sometimes for years at a time of their far too short lives. Doing this work, none of us should ever forget that beneath these numbers are individuals, members of our communities, people who are deeply cared for and will not be forgotten. Homelessness is not an abstract construct. It is a violent condition that is imposed upon individuals that cuts their lives short, needlessly. We can and must take the time to recognize this and mourn those we have lost. This is Pierre Gregoire. He died of an overdose in the basement of a Taco Bell. He was unhoused, he was young, just 27, Indigenous, soft-spoken, and a brilliant guitarist. Oftentimes, we would play together for people in the drop-in, but he was much, much better at playing guitar than I was. This is Kenny Grimes. I love Kenny. He was a Toronto fixture, always sailing down the street at full speed on his incredible, very souped-up bicycle. Kenny never healed from the loss of his sisters, Angelina and Tanya. He was full of life, but life was hard for Kenny. Sometimes he would talk to me about wanting to end his life. And one day he did, although I'll never know if he meant to do it or not. This is Lorraine, but we all knew her as Hannah. She came to Toronto from Kenya, but had ended up unhoused. After she died, I learned that she'd come to Canada as a data analyst. She had a child and a sister who were living in Nairobi. She was killed by her partner, Jumbo. His real name was Malid. He was also a fixture of our drop-in, and usually a pretty jolly person, at least to tell a lot of jokes. He killed himself after he killed Lorraine. And I admit that I mourn them both. Crystal Papineau had a frenetic energy. If you knew her, you knew this to be true. She was also incredibly kind and generous with everyone, and she was very, very well loved by her community, both staff and by participants alike. Crystal was crushed to death in a clothing donation box just a few years ago. She was restricted from the drop-in that she called home. This is Byron Cromarty. Byron was like a little brother. I was always trying to make sure that he was properly dressed for the winter, but no matter what I did, he always seemed to end up back in just a t-shirt. He died of an overdose on New Year's Eve in Trinity Square. Just meters away from where his body was, people were reveling. This is Angela Cromarty, his mother. Angela was an employee of mine at the meeting place. She would often ask me what could be done for Byron. It broke me to hear Angela, a mother, plead for the life of her son and to be able to offer nothing. Not long after Byron died, Angela passed away too. Doreen Upson was a loving mother and partner. She was one of the most gentle and thoughtful people that I have ever met, and always took care of other women in the community. As a joke, she gave me her prison shoes one time from Vanier. I actually did think it was kind of funny. They didn't fit. Doreen died of an overdose during the pandemic, and I miss her quite a bit. Kyle Bai was just the loveliest person, and one of my all-time favorite people, I think. We would joke about really bad movies, about really bad TV shows that we were watching, and he would sometimes just run errands for me just because he wanted to, or drop by just to say hello. One time he overdosed in our bathroom, and I felt so bad about having to break his ribs, giving him CPR. I actually couldn't look at him in the eye after that. But he came to me months later and told me not to worry, he was fine. He actually went out of his way to make me feel better, which he never, ever should have had to do. And I'm not sure that I deserved that. I was always worried that someday we would lose Kyle. And one day last summer, we did. People used to say that Sandy, Cecilia, and I looked like brother and sister, and I will take that as a compliment because Sandy was a very handsome man. He was my right arm, running the meeting place drop-in in Parkdale. Last year, he lost his job. The pandemic was really hard, especially for people with lived experience who are working, for peer workers. We lost Sandy not long after that. I love Darcy Ferns, absolutely love her. And she could raise hell, and if you knew her, you absolutely knew that she could tear up your space like nobody else. But Darcy was also really sensitive, and her love for the people that she truly cared about was like a fire that would blaze through her. Sometimes when she wasn't feeling great, I would go and buy her a bacon sandwich, and we would eat it in the women's bathroom and just sit and chat and spend a couple hours together just trying to feel okay. She died not long after having heart surgery this past August, and I miss her a lot. I could tell more stories of my friends who died without housing, or because of the trauma in their lives that was deeply entwined with ever having experienced being unhoused. But it's a lot, It is a lot for me to tell these stories. Instead, I want to say this. Not one of these beautiful, wonderful people had to die. All of them long, long before their time. They were all so young. You could see that from the photos. When we talk about our ideas and solutions to homelessness, please recognize that everything we say is about real people. People like Pierre, people like Doreen, people like Darcy, and it impacts their lives in tangible ways, and sometimes negative ways. We have the luxury of discussion. While the Pierres, the Doreens, the Darcys have to face the reality of constant, daily, uphill survival. As you go forth throughout this conference, do not forget that we are talking about real people, individuals, people who are cared about, people I care about, people who do not, cannot, and should never have to conform to anyone's expectations of how they ought to be or behave in order to be considered worthy of the right to life. They all deserve better, every single person. From Canada and from us here today, especially service providers who are here. The thousands of people who have died, all of them, every single one has a name, they have a face, and they have worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. So I'd like all of us to have a moment of silence. I'd like us to reflect on what Diana has said, on the stories that she's shared. In addition to remembrance and reflection, and I hope in this moment of silence, you're also going to allow yourself some space for your own grief. I know many of you know people, as Diana does and has, and I know many of you have faces in your memory as well. I also know many of you are struggling with the impact of moral injury, from feeling helpless in the face of overwhelming challenges and the trauma and grief caused by the loss of people you care so deeply about, and the burnout from the sheer enormity of the crises that we're all struggling with. So I'd like us to take this minute of silence to pause and reflect. Thank you all. So normally at our conference, we make a donation to a local homeless agency on behalf of conference participants. And I'm pleased to let you know that we will be donating $7,500 to All Saints Toronto to support their clothing bank for people who will be cast outside this winter. So I'd like to now share some greetings that we've received, starting with a very heartfelt and inspiring message from the Governor General, Her Excellency Mary Simon, who said that this is in your program as well, and she said, I'm pleased to extend a warm greeting to all those taking part in CAEH22. Over these past 2 years, we have all had to adjust to the restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic. This has been particularly challenging for people experiencing homelessness, but also for the frontline workers and those who support them. Their resilience and caring in what is already a very demanding job are remarkable and deserve to be recognized. Your participation in this event is also admirable because it demonstrates a shared commitment to helping those who need it most. It is a source of hope and inspiration to me. As a proud Inuk, knowing that people experiencing homelessness are tragically overrepresented by Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people, I am confident that by working together, we will be able to develop solutions. In Inuktitut, we use the word Adunuktukta, which conveys an important concept for the Inuit. It means to never give up, to commit yourself to action no matter how daunting the cause may be. I commend all of you on working tirelessly and compassionately for the betterment of all members of our community. I wish you a rewarding conference, and that is from the Governor General, Mary Simon. Now we have a video greeting from the Federal Minister, the Honorable Ahmed Hussein, the Minister of Housing, Diversity and Inclusion.
Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I'm Ahmed Hussein, Minister for Housing and Diversity and Inclusion. I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person for the 2022 Canadian National Conference on Ending Homelessness, but I did want to miss the opportunity to say a few words. We all have a common conviction that everyone deserves a safe place to call home. Unfortunately, there are too many people who face homelessness on a daily basis across Canada, an unacceptable reality that has only gotten worse because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That is why our government has doubled its investments in Reaching Home, Canada's homelessness strategy, from over $2 billion to nearly $4 billion over 9 years. We've invested close to $14 billion for housing through Budget 2022 and so much more. We know there's more work to do, and by working together, we can continue making progress towards eliminating chronic homelessness across Canada. I want to thank the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness for hosting today's event and for the important work you are doing on the ground. I hope you all have a successful conference today. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. And we have also we also have a greeting from Minister Steve Clark, the Ontario's Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. It's not me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Toronto. I'm happy that so many of you have been able to gather to discuss the critical topic of ending homelessness, both here in Ontario and across Canada. I know the past few years have been especially difficult for our most vulnerable citizens and for all of you who have been working tirelessly to support those at risk or are experiencing homelessness. I want to begin by reaffirming my gratitude for your hard work and to acknowledge the profound impact your efforts have made on the lives of so many Ontarians. These efforts made a difference during the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic, and again today, as Ontarians face a cost of living crisis that is threatening their ability to afford basic necessities. Our government is committed to working with you to address those challenges and support those Ontarians who are most in need. Allow me to briefly outline some of the measures we have taken so far. Last year, we worked with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness to support service managers as they implemented by name list to help them better connect to the supports they need. And now, thanks to your dedication and support, all service managers in Ontario have implemented a by name list. We also created the Social Services Relief Fund and Community Housing Renewal Strategy so municipalities and service providers can help address homelessness, and have made an additional $295 million available in 2021-2022 to continue the fund and provide support where it's needed. Our new Community Housing Renewal Strategy outlines our plan to stabilize, improve, and grow the community housing sector, and we're investing an additional $25 million annually in our homelessness prevention program. This brings our total investment in this program to close to $464 million. We remain steadfast in our commitment to work with you and all our partners to make sure people who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness can access housing and the supports that they need. Here are signs of progress towards this goal. Guelph Wellington, for instance, has shown real progress with chronic homelessness down 30% since 2019. Other communities like Ottawa, St. Thomas, and Sault Ste. Marie have shown similar positive reductions. And in Dufferin County, chronic homelessness has been reduced by a remarkable 74%. While I know many of you may at times feel tired or even worn out, you can look to these encouraging signs as evidence that your dedication and sacrifice are having a positive impact. We'll keep working with you to ensure that every single Ontarian can find a safe place to call home. And I would like to thank you once more for your efforts in achieving this goal. Thank you, and best wishes for the rest of the conference.
Thank you. You know, in 1998, the Toronto Disaster Relief Committee declared homelessness a national disaster. The state of emergency declaration they made was released in October 1998 and was immediately endorsed by individuals, community agencies, faith groups, labor unions, and various government entities. On October 28, 1998, Toronto City Council passed a motion endorsing the declaration. 2 years later, the committee, the Church of the Holy Trinity, and concerned activists launched Toronto's Homeless Memorial to commemorate that date and to remember all the people who have lived and died on the streets of Toronto as a direct result of homelessness. On November 22nd, 1998, the Big City Mayors Caucus of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities passed a similar motion. National Housing Day, which will take place later this month on November 22nd, began in 2000 following FCM's motion and was designed to call attention to the fact that Canada was the only G8 country at the time without a national housing strategy. Today we have a national housing strategy and we have a legislated right to housing. But we're also living in what I would argue is a housing and homelessness crisis more acute and more punishing and more dangerous and more lethal than that which was declared a national emergency 20 years ago. The housing crisis that we're experiencing has accelerated unchecked for more than 30 years and has been compounded by a poison drug supply, a global pandemic, and now a cost of living crisis that's generating a new wave of homelessness. This is heaping more pressure on homeless systems that are already stretched thin and even further exacerbated by politicians in some parts of the country seeking a quick and easy solution to homelessness for a public growing increasingly alarmed by the scale of the crisis. But in the face of all of this hardship, in the face of these headwinds, there's promise. Communities like Medicine Hat and London have seen their success in ending chronic and veteran homelessness rolled back, but they're rallying their communities and are going to get back to functional zero very soon. Despite enormous headwinds, as the minister mentioned, Guelph Wellington has sustained a 30% reduction in chronic homelessness since 2019. Other communities have made new gains. Ottawa has achieved a 15% reduction in chronic homelessness. Sault Ste. Marie has reduced chronic homelessness 31%, and St. Thomas Elgin has seen a 19% reduction. And there is a small but growing group of communities on the verge of ending homelessness for at least one population. Dufferin County, again, I don't know if folks from Dufferin are here, if they wave their hand. There they are. Is on track to reaching functional zero chronic homelessness and will be the first Ontario community to do so. Having reduced chronic homelessness, yes, give me. They've reduced chronic homelessness by over 74%, and there's other communities that we're working with are on the verge of functional zero for veteran homelessness. We are gathering in one of the most brutal and challenging times in recent memory, but we are clearly not powerless to reverse the lethal trajectory of homelessness. We have fought and won a national housing strategy. We have fought for and won billions of dollars of investment in housing. We have fought for and won a legislated right to housing. Are these changes perfect? Not by a country mile. But we've proven we can do it. We've proven we can build the political power of our sector, and most importantly, the political power of people experiencing homelessness and those that love and care about them. And we can harness that power to change the rules. Homelessness, modern mass homelessness in Canada was created by policy. We have demonstrated that we can change those policies. But you're also changing the reality of homelessness on the ground every day in Medicine Hat and London and Guelph and Sault Ste. Marie and Ottawa and St. Thomas Elgin and Dufferin counties and communities across the country. I'm not going to bullshit you, right? There was nothing. The last 3 years have been really awful, and I don't actually think the next 3 years are going to be much better. It won't be easy, but I know we can do it. We are not powerless to change the lethal trajectory of homelessness. And friends, that's why we're here. For those of you working in the sector, you know that ending homelessness can be hard and lonely and isolating work. I hope you'll take a few minutes this week to look around the room. Have a look around the room. Notice that you're not alone. You're with a growing community of friends, peers, and colleagues who are here to support you and share the burden. We're also joined this week by over 180 people who are or were homeless, and thanks to you for everybody who registered for the conference and you paid an inclusion fee that allows us to bring 180 people who are or were homeless to join us. To those friends, I hope you know and I hope you feel you are welcome here. Yes, please. You're doing the hardest work of ending homelessness yourselves, and we see that. I want you to know, and I think we want you to know, that you are surrounded by a national community of love and support who is listening to you, is supporting you, and who shares your urgency to end homelessness. I wish I had homes for everyone who needs one today, but we don't yet. But what this community has is a resolve to end homelessness as fast as possible, and we will not stop trying until we do. Let's use this conference to lift each other up, to be inspired, and to gather our strength. We have a huge challenge in front of us, but this is a challenge we're more than equal to. Together, we're going to face these challenges with focus and resolve, and together we will end homelessness. Friends, welcome to the 2022 National Conference on Ending Homelessness. So, we're going to cut you loose now to go to your concurrent sessions, which will start at 10 o'clock. All of them are on the level above, on the second level. A reminder for those who need interpretation, we have simultaneous interpretation receivers available in the back of the room. Ladies, everyone, thank you very much.